Welcome to Satsunami. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Satsunami. I'm Satsunami and joining me today, and quite frankly is probably the closest we'll ever get to a true crime episode in this podcast, is my very good friend Adam. Adam, welcome back.
Hello, good to be back. I've brought my raincoat, I've brought my umbrella, Ella, hey. So, set for this.
Yeah, I honestly can't wait to talk about this. I have been so excited ever since we started, talking about the potential of doing an episode based on this. So, for those of you who don't know, my good friend Adam here, and my other friend, or our other friend, sorry, I didn't want to disclose you from that.
Cut me out of this.
He's my friend, David.
I know of him. I know of the other.
Yes, the Green Shield 95 that you may have seen around Twitch. Yes, we all do a Let's Play series together called T-Posing over on YouTube at Satsunami42. Shameless plug. And yeah, we've been going through like a lot of different games. So we've been doing like The Legend of Zelda, GTA, Warzone. But one particular series that you and I, Adam, have been doing is Heavy Rain. And we've been doing that for about 16 consecutive weeks, which...
My goodness.
I can't believe that. It's been 16 episodes since we started. And as of yesterday, like as we're recording this just now, the finale has come out. I can't believe how fast time's gone. Can you?
I know, it brought a tear to my eye watching the finale. I was like, man, a chapter in my life is closed.
Yeah, I should have edited in like violins or something. Because I was like, oh my god, this is the end of an era almost.
It's over. The curtain falls.
Yeah, and the arms of the angel slowly play in the background. But honestly, it has been a blast going through this series again, and kind of especially experience it with somebody else, because I think if you play these games on your own and you're kind of like, oh, what's this or what's that, it's a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially if you want to replay one of these games, I think it's good to do it with somebody else. So we'll get into that more, but I think, yeah, especially to replay it, it's good to have some company.
Before we actually jump into dissecting, what we've learned over the past 16 weeks. Yeah.
Before the autopsy begins.
Exactly. Yeah, before, we... God, an autopsy, that's the perfect analogy for this game. Put on your futuristic sunglasses and let's get this dead body dissected. Before we go into it though, how did you hear about this game initially? Because this came out in 2010, which, as of recording this in 2021, that was 11 years ago. Can you believe it? I know.
I think this was cutting edge at one time is quite amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it does. Bits of it still hold up in a weird way. But yeah, some other bits you just think, stop.
It's not bad looking. It's not not bad looking by any stretch, but like it does look like an old game now. But to think back, anyway, sorry for that tangent. But yeah, I first heard about this when it was getting released, because I remember the sort of build up for it. I can't remember. I think I had played Indigo Prophecy / Fahrenheit, which is one of David Cage's early games from the mid 2000s. I think I played that a couple of years before this came out, so I think I was aware of Monsieur Cage, and I remember being quite excited. It looked really cool and it looked really good. But like I was, as has been established on this, I'm an Xbox gamer, and I had a 360, and this was a PS3 exclusive. So I looked forlornly through the window and thought, oh well, never to be.
So how did you actually play this game then?
Well, eventually it came out 20. I think I got a PS3 in 2016.
Ah, okay.
Serves, and I bought it off somebody, and it came with a bunch of games. No, actually, sorry, Heavy Rain wasn't one of them. But like I remembered it, and I still really wanted to play it. So I think I went to a local secondhand game shop and procured myself a copy and played it. And honestly, I can say I went and played most of the big hitting like PS3 titles. So like, I went and played this, played Last of Us, I played like God of War 3, and some other ones that I'm completely blanking on. Honestly, this was the one I probably enjoyed the most. I had probably the most fun with this one. So I came to it like quite a few years later, but still very much enjoyed it.
It's quite interesting to hear that you didn't really experience it in the, the height of its... I'm not going to say the height of its popularity, because I'm imagining, like, you know how there was the Beatles hysteria? Where people were, like, screaming in crowds and things? Like, I don't see the same image for Heavy Rain
Was that not
fans.
happening? Was that not happening with David Cage? Did David Cage not have to be escorted everywhere from the throngs of screaming female fans?
I don't know. Like, I don't want to call David Cage a Beatle, but... yeah. Yeah, moving on. Yes, he's the fifth Beatle. Take that insult any way you want, or compliment, No, I don't see it. Like, I remember it being popular, because I remember when I bought this game, or not bought, sorry, I procured it as well for my birthday. Oh, I actually can't remember when it was. In fact, no, I think I must have got it in 2010, because I got it for...
Off the press.
I know, because I think I got it for my birthday. Yeah, it was interesting, because I remember getting two particular games that birthday. I got Heavy Rain, and I got Red Dead Redemption, the original one. And... I don't know why I was so, like, focused on, like, story-driven games at the time, but I really enjoyed them. I remember playing them. In fact, no, sorry, I remember we were on holiday at the time, so I couldn't play them.
Oh, no. The cruel irony.
Yeah, so I had to wait until that fateful day when I could return home to my, PlayStation that was actually looking out the window forlorn, with a napkin tied round its head. Oh, when will my player return from the war?
When can I experience the work of David Cage?
Never. Yeah, I always remember, like, the reason I was the opposite, in the opposite camp rather. I ended up getting a PlayStation first because, like, this is a slight tangent, apologies, but I ended up getting a PlayStation first because I think it's because my brother had a PlayStation 2 and I heard all about the Red Ring of Death and everything, and yeah, I was not all for that at the time. They obviously fixed it eventually, but yeah, because of that I opted for the PlayStation. That, and I wanted to get Sonic 06, which we all know how that story ends. Not well. If you want to hear my opinion on it, go check out the episode.
Is that a moment in time? Like, do you know, it's like, if there's one moment in time you could go back to and like warn your like past self, is that the one that you'd pick?
Nah, honestly, like, it's a learning experience. It's one of those moments that makes you like a gamer.
Defining.
Yeah, exactly. It makes you jaded to the world of gaming. Because I always remember playing that game, and again, slight tangent, but I remember playing the game, and it was so bad, like the PlayStation version is so bad, that the pre-rendered cutscenes started like jittering, and they would not play properly, and I thought it was a problem with the disc. So, like, I was buying, like, disc cleaners, trying to say, look, it's not working, and I could not get it fixed. And ironically enough, like, years later, when I streamed it, I bought the Xbox 360 version. So not only do I have two copies of it, but the Xbox version actually works better. So, yeah, fun fact.
Take that, PlayStation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Cool.
Xbox for the win.
Yeah, but the Xbox did not have Heavy Rain for actually quite hilarious reasons. Do you know why it didn't come out for the Xbox 360?
No, why did it not?
Well, the reason is that David Cage apparently pitched the idea to, like, all the game studios, and because of the subject matter, aka kidnapping and killing children, yeah, Microsoft weren't on board with that, surprisingly, and they said, nah, we don't want it. So instead, for some reason, Sony took it on and signed a 3-game deal with them. I suppose that's like, what's that called? Is it Dante's Inferno? There's like signing your soul away to the devil. It's like, are you sure you want to do this? It's like, oh yeah, sure. I mean, I've got a game planned with Elliot Page. I've got a game planned with the robots and segregation. It's going to be great. And they're like, wait, what? I think the red flags for this is, like, I'm looking at my notes here, and I never realised that someone actually said that apparently the script for this was over 2,000 pages.
Oh my goodness.
Can you?
Is that long for? I'm saying that. Is that long for a film? Is that long for a script?
Apparently so. I think comparatively. I don't know if if there's any script writers out there listening, like, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure someone quoted it as like 90 to 100 pages, maybe. It's like the average. Maybe I could be wrong in that. Maybe it's longer. Like, even if it's like, let's say it's even 900. Like, it does not compare to Heavy Rain script. I think the reason being is because there's so many like diverging paths and kind of variables. Like, I have to admit, like, if you compared this to like Hideo Kojima's work, you know, like I think you would probably be able to build a museum out of the scripts that Kojima's written. Oh, yeah.
Very true.
I actually can't imagine like how big his scripts are, either for Metal Gear or Death Stranding, or I was going to say Bus Simulator, but that is Death Stranding.
Take that, Death Stranding.
I'm sorry, I haven't played it, and I have absolutely no interest in playing it. There's my Kojima jab of the night.
Wow.
Do you want to get in there, Adam? Do you want to?
No, to be honest, Death Stranding is this game that I don't know if I'd like it or not. I kind of want to play it.
Yeah.
Just very sick. I'm not. Again, I might absolutely hate it, but it's that game. I'm just like, it just looks so fascinating, just from an outside perspective.
Oh God, yeah, it is.
But yeah, write better female characters.
And speaking of female characters being written poorly, Heavy Rain. That was a great segue.
Almost like I planned it.
As I said, before we jump in, what is this game about? How could you introduce this game? Like, just in a couple of sentences, like, what is Heavy Rain all about?
A heartwarming tale of a father trying to reconnect with his son, and a woman trying to cure her insomnia, and another man trying to get off drugs, and then there's another guy. How did that go as a summary?
That is actually that is more than I actually hoped for. So, well done.
4 sentences. There you go.
Well done. 4 sentences for 4.
I'm getting better at doing these now.
Oh yeah, no, the art of brevity. Thy name is Adam. I mean, well done. So, as I said before, we have been playing this for 16 episodes. Doesn't feel like 16 episodes right enough. Like, we did one a week, so 16 weeks of Heavy Rain, and that is absolutely it's incredible.
It's a long time to spend with David Cage.
Yeah.
Long time to spend in his world.
Yeah. So what we're going to do just now is we're going to play a quick clip, or rather the trailer for the series. So if you want to check this out, then you can check it out at Satsunami42 over on YouTube. Yeah, I'm going to play the trailer just now. If you want to see it, as I said, the trailer's over there. Will we show these fine people what they're missing?
Let's do it. Let's show what we got up to.
You get Soen. Sew it.
No.
No, sew it. It'll be hysterical. For the content.
Oh,
yes. Oh, yes, for the content, do it. Look at that rusty saw.
Oh.
Get Soen.
Oh, how he taunts me. You survive.
I don't know. Thank God Merlin died. He didn't have to see this.
Sam and Jane.
Wow, I don't remember this at all.
I don't... Oh, okay. You indeed can use it all.
Scott Shelby, Nam and Jane and Ethan Morris.
Oh, it's an automatic. I can't drive this. Okay, guys, sorry.
Sorry, Sean.
Oh my god! My name is Madison, and I'm here to say...
Jesus, what should I do?
I think some
swing first.
Lady Luck, or whatever you call it. What do you call that? I don't know.
Lady Luck! No, mate, you're too late for luck now. You're chopping your finger off.
Do you like what you see, Manfred?
What fan fiction are you writing with Steve McQueen? How did that happen? Like...
How did that work?
Wow, that one worked. I was waiting for that one.
Yay. This is fun.
Sorry, was that too dark?
No. It probably is, but you know what? In fairness, we need a good laugh.
Oh, the laughs we had.
The memories.
Oh, that was honestly such a fun series to record, though.
It really was like for like a single player game. It's surprising how much fun you can have with more than one person doing it.
Yeah, it's kind of the perfect game to let's play, though, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
It's like one of those games that you can have just like a running commentary going on. Like, you don't really have to concentrate unless it's, the high stress situations, which there are many. There are many.
It's a gold. The game is a gold mine as well of material. I think that's what makes it so great. Like most of David Cage's video games are just gold mines for just stuff to comment on, to laugh at, to laugh with, whatever you want.
Even the goofs.
It's true.
I mean, you remember one of my worst goofs in this game. Do you want to tell them, or should I admit? Should I confess to the audience?
Wait, you're good. Oh, is this the one with Madison?
No, that too, but I was thinking more of Lightning McQueen, getting him mixed up with Steve McQueen.
Oh my goodness, that is one of my prizes, one of my favorite memories I think now of all time. Is you admitting to your love of Steve McQueen.
Yes, my
High stress. It's like that thing you do like when you think you're about to die and you're like, I've never told anybody this. I write Steve McQueen fan fiction.
Wait, what? It's like, it's true, all of it.
It's true. And then we get saved and you're like, oh no.
Well, one of us is getting out of here alive. Yeah, so to explain, in case anyone's wondering where my Steve McQueen fanfiction is, you can catch it at Steve McQueen Lover 42.co.uk. No, I'm joking. Don't look that up. Don't look that up in case it's a real thing. I don't want to be There's going to be like a Steve McQueen fan out there like, oh, I've seen a surge in viewers. I wonder why. It's like, well...
Your retelling of The Great Escape was quite beautiful, really.
Yeah, it really was. Who knew that getting tied to a steering wheel with Steve McQueen was, that exciting, So yeah, to explain, Your Honour, yeah, there was a scene where basically you had to escape a sinking car, and at one point one of the characters turns the engine on, and the headlights come on. And initially I was like, oh wow, I was making a joke saying, oh, it's like a Lightning McQueen fanfiction, like the character from Cars. Unfortunately, because my brain was all over the place, like trying to escape the car, I immediately went to Steve McQueen instead. Yeah, which ended up with one of the funniest, I don't want to say breakdowns, but you know what I mean? One of the, moments where I was just like, yeah, this is...
It was just one of those purely unscripted moments of just joy, where it caught me by so surprise. Yeah. Just just set us both off. So... Oh. Just pure gold. That's not something you can ever replicate again. That was the classic, lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, Lightning McQueen in a bottle. Thank you very much.
Hey, I like it. I like it. Thank you, David Cage. Yeah. If you may be a horrible person in real life, but you gave us one moment of unindulged joy.
Yeah, thank you for making me come to terms with my Steve McQueen addiction. I can proudly say and confess on this podcast that I am indeed a fan of Steve McQueen. The ironic thing being that I've never really seen a Steve McQueen film.
That's the new series starting soon.
Yeah. Satsunami watches Steve McQueen films.
Our Steve McQueen saga.
And Citizen Kane to wrap up. Oh, yeah, I still need to watch Citizen Kane. I keep comparing films to it because people tell me it's a good film. Is it a good film? I don't know.
I really hope you hate it.
Oh,
things I've compared to Citizen Kane.
I'm like, oh my god, this is terrible. I've got so much backtracking to do. So yeah, back to Heavy Rain. Steve McQueen, don't worry, you'll have your own Satsunami episode one day. Where can we even start with this game? As you said, it focuses on 4 main characters. We've got Ethan Mars, who is basically a walking cliche. He's an architect, a stay-at-home dad, he's living the life with his absolutely ridiculous house until one day his child gets hit by a car. Oh, sorry, spoilers.
I was going to say, are you gonna give the spoiler warning?
And Steve McQueen was the killer all along.
Oh my god.
Oh, but yeah, sorry, spoilers going forward. This happened. This is the premise of the game, okay?
In fairness, yeah, that's true.
I'm sure it's on the back of the box. It's like, come play this game where Jason gets hit by a car. I mean, by now, like, it's been 11 years. Everybody knows the memes of press X to Jason, you know, Sean, the origami killer, all of the good stuff. So, yeah, we've got Ethan, who ends up losing his son because he is a stupid child that doesn't know to look left and right in the middle of the road. Which, apparently... So, there's a scene in the game, quite harrowing, where Ethan sees his son running across the road and he's like, Dad, hello. Oh, the voice acting, for the most part, is terrible in this game, especially with the children. I mean, some of them actually do really well. Like, Pascal Langdale. I'm getting his name right this time because I messed it up. I messed it up before, but I'm not messing up again. The guy who voices Ethan Mars, he actually does a good job for the most part.
He's not bad.
Yeah, he's okay. He's serviceable in terms of Heavy Rain. It's weird because I've seen behind the scenes footage of them actually, well, acting, and they do some really great performances. And you compare it to the game itself, and it's like, they don't really translate. And I don't know why, if it's just the take they took for the game, or...
Like, do you know, so like, they were motion capped, am I right in saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, like, they would act out a scene and it would be motion capped, and then it would get transported into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair enough. I did wonder, I wondered if, like, maybe, like, if you're watching them, like, practice in the background, like, when they're able to be a bit more animated, but I thought maybe if you're just reading it, like, you know, if you're in, like, a sound studio and you're just, like, reading the lines, perhaps something gets lost there, but...
I genuinely don't know what the reason was, because as I said, like, some of the line readings are really good and then others are just like, it's a bit weird, you know, that way.
Yeah.
At the same time, so sorry, going back to the harrowing scene where, sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, but the harrowing scene where his son gets hit by the car, what ends up happening is he, like, dives in front of the car to, like, protect his son, and a lot of people, like, even people that have shown our Let's Play of, like, they keep saying, why did the child die? Because, you know, Ethan took the brunt of the blow.
Yeah.
Apparently, there is a revised scene of that. Like, there was an initial draft where David Cage actually wanted Jason to get, like, hit by the car and thrown up in the air, and Sony said, no. Yeah, apparently.
Why would that be your first? Oh my god! You're joking right now.
No, well, I can confirm it, but I'm sure, like, someone did. Yeah, but like he seems very, very passionate about certain decisions. He's very much like, you know how we kind of riff on like George Lucas and things. You know, like having like a certain vision and nobody's saying no to him. You know, it's like, we've got to do this, and everyone says, yes, George, yes, you directed a very good movie, yes, and you know it comes out terrible, and you're like, yeah, we should have said no at some points. There was a lot that apparently Sony said no to, and I think they had to make compromises along the way, and some things probably for the best.
Oh, definitely. Thank God somebody was there to restrain him.
Yeah, because
you do worry what this guy would do if, like, you said there was like no, there was no like restraint. I really do worry.
Oh my god, he would have just been like unhinged.
Yeah.
The David Cage cut, where it's like, okay, now, I mean, it's bad enough you actually see like a dead child in the game. Well, kind of. Like, the shots are kind of like obscured, but you know, it's like a crime scene. So it's contextual, you know, it's not just gratuitous, but we will get to the gratuity of this game. Believe me, I will be ranting. And I'm sure you'll be ranting as well at this.
Yep.
So yeah, because of like the accident, Ethan Mars, he goes into a coma and he ends up like waking up and getting divorced from his wife. His life falls apart. He tries to repair his relationship with his son. It's just a mess, isn't it?
Honestly, it's just... I forgot what, like, when we started, well, obviously when you started replaying and I was watching, I forgot how, like, depressing that, especially that second chapter is.
Oh, yeah.
Like, third chapter.
Yeah.
It was, like, after Jason is killed, and then it's, like, Ethan and his wife divorce, and it's, like, you know, Sean's obviously splitting time between his two parents, and then Ethan picks him up from school. That whole chapter takes him back to his new house. That whole chapter is just horrible. I remember when I first played it, my flatmate at the time was watching, and that's he was like, "No, I'm not watching any more of this game. This is too depressing." He just bailed on it there.
Really? Wow.
Oh my god, it is so like you're just like, oh my god, we can laugh at it now. But,
Yeah.
oh, is that thing laugh or cry? That's all you can.
Oh, it really is. Like, he goes from this giant mansion, having the perfect family, to this, like, really horrible well, not apartment, a house, but it's not well kept. It's not an architect's dream. You can, yeah.
Oh my god.
Then the main plot hook, of course, comes into the game where his son eventually gets kidnapped, and yeah, that really sets off the chain of events where you realise it's a infamous killer in this universe called the Origami Killer, who murders his victims, aka kidnapped children, by shoving them down a well and letting it fill up. It's a bit grim, you know. Like,
Yeah,
you can
that's a bit
see...
grim.
You can see why Microsoft turned their back on this.
We'll stick to Gears of War. People chainsawing aliens is far more palatable.
Yeah, exactly. You can see that. You can kind of think, yeah, like chopping up, you know, aliens. That's fine, you know. Shooting the Covenant in the head, that's fine as well. But yeah, when it comes to that, when it comes to dead children, yeah, probably draw a line underneath it.
Did David Cage lead that? So when he went to Microsoft, was his first thing? He's like, right, we're gonna have a scene, and basically the child's gonna get hit by a car. He's gonna go flying up into the air. We're gonna keep watching it, and he's gonna crash down to the ground again. Are you in? So, when can we start?
It's like, you know, the comedy shows where he's like, when can you start? And then it just cuts immediately to him on the pavement. Just like, did they say no? They said no. It's like, yeah.
That Fresh Prince of Bel-Air cut of him getting thrown out of
Yeah.
headquarters.
Exactly. So, yeah, to get his son back, he essentially has to do, like, several, like, Saw Light challenges.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, where he has to, like, chop his finger off, he has to drive at the wrong side of the road, or the right side of the road if you're in the UK, you know. Sorry, I got that in there. What else does he have to do? Oh, he has to drink poison.
Crawl through glass.
Crawl through glass. Oh, God, that one was the worst. We'll get to that. And, yeah, just all these... Oh, yeah, and shoot a guy in his daughter's bedroom. In my defence, he was a drug dealer, okay?
Don't pretend that was the reason. We all know, if you watch the video, you'll all know why the reason.
As I said, at Satsunami42 on YouTube, you can see my defence testimony on the Heavy Rain playlist. But anyway, that aside, yeah, so he has to go through all these trials to get his son back. And it's very harrowing, some of these. Like, some of them are really brutal, like, especially the one where you have to chop off your finger, and you have to choose the instrument that you're going to use, you have to, you know, you've got a time limit, so that adds to the stress. I feel as if that is the only trial that's really well done. Like, out of the 5 of them. Or, is it 4 or 5? I think it's 5.
Well, there's 5, yeah.
5, yeah. Definitely at the 5, it's the best one. Because for the first one, you don't actually get a choice to opt out of it. Yeah, like the one where you have to drive in traffic. Like, you don't actually get a choice whether or not, like, you want to say no to it. You have to do it, apparently.
There you go.
Yeah, so it's weird. Yeah. It's this thing we were talking about last time when we were talking about narrative versus gameplay.
Yeah.
And we were basically talking about, like, player agency and things. There are some moments in this game where it's like, your choice matters, except when it doesn't. And you're like...
except right now.
Yeah, like, some bits you're kind of like, really, David, really? Oh, sorry. I shouldn't call him, like, David, because I don't know him personally.
Monsieur Cage.
Monsieur Cage, yeah. It's like, you know, with David Cage, it's like he tries to make this interactive world and everything, which, don't get me wrong, sometimes he does a great job at it, but then other times you're just like, why? But why? Why would you do this to me? You know that way. I'm just trying to think of the other challenges, like the cutting glass, or when you have to crawl through the thing in glass. That is one of the most frustrating ones, where it's like you have to strike a match and hold it up to the wind, and you're supposed to look at the direction of the flame.
I remember that one because I was just trying to rack my brain there. I was trying to think because we had because to both of us it made no sense. Like I thought it would be like, so the way the flame was pointing, is direction like the wind is blowing from.
Yeah.
So it would be the other way, but apparently it's not. You're supposed to go. I was just trying to think there. I was like, maybe I'm just really dumb here. I really don't understand. Well, I am really dumb. I don't understand how wind works. I don't know.
No,
that makes sense.
I thought I thought exactly the same. I was like, no, this makes no sense. Surely the wind must be blowing, and therefore, like, that's where the wind's coming from, you know. I thought exactly the same thing. And there have been a couple of other people saying the same. And I mean,
that's good, at least.
I know, like, I'm glad that it's not just us thinking that.
I think the real problem with that trial is, like, the controls get very clunky, and then it's that thing where the camera becomes fixed. And then, you know, so, like, you'll be crawling one direction, the camera will change, and it will, like, invert your controls. And so, like, you'll be holding one direction, and that'll turn your character around, and you get, like, that. Like, they used to happen with the old Resident Evil games where, like, you know, you kept, like, going back and forth between, like, two camera angles, because you're like, damn it, I can't change in time.
Oh, no.
I think that was the second trial.
It's very clunky. The controls are very clunky in this game. We played it in the PC, actually.
Yeah.
And, like, because of that, you can kind of move around freely. But if you play this on the PlayStation 3, then you have to hold in the R2 button. So it's like, to move anywhere, I remember having to hold in R2 to walk anywhere. And I was worried that my R2 button was going to, like, snap off. Because I was holding it for sure. Oh,
why is that a thing? Like, has David Cage not played any other games?
No, I don't get it. I genuinely don't get why. It's just, it's, as you said, it's tank controls, isn't it? It's just absolute tanky controls.
It's just being awkward for the sake of it, it feels like. Because it's not like holding R2 makes you more immersed. Like, I don't get any logical reason why it's there, apart from, like, as you say, to, like, break your controller and also, like, cramp your finger up.
I don't get it. It's just, it's weird. It's weird, it's smelly, and I don't like it. Next question, please. But speaking of weird, that moves us on to, like, our next character. Like, in fact, no, I'm going to put it to you. Who do you want to talk about next? Because we've got 3 more characters.
I'm going to go with... Let's go with Norman Jayden next.
Okay.
Because there's one character I'd like to discuss at the end, so you get to choose the next one, so it'll be fun to see if we're on the same wavelength here. But let's go Norman Jayden.
Okay. No, I'll let you. I'll put it to you this time.
Norman Jayden is probably my favourite out of the 4. I think his chapters are maybe some of the best as well, because a lot of it is to do with, like, kind of investigating and, you know, kind of, especially like crime scene investigating. I think it works quite well. Because a lot of them, like, so basically Norman Jayden's an FBI agent who comes in to investigate, like, the origami killer. And he has this, like, fancy pair of glasses called Ari?
Yeah.
ARI. I think we decided to call it Ari, didn't we?
Yeah.
Allow it, which kind of, it's almost like something out of, like, you know, Iron Man or something. It's like something Tony Stark has, where, like, you can draw, like, databases. It goes into, like, kind of virtual world, and you can, like, reconstruct events, and, like, evidence gets highlighted, you know, you can pinpoint things on maps and everything. It's like a kind of augmented reality type thing. And that's really quite cool, and I really like those scenes. I think they're probably the best in the game, where you can, like, explore a crime scene and find evidence, and if you're like us, forget to investigate the dead body.
Yeah, I forgot.
A crime scene. I mean, they are some of the. I think they're some of the most fun, and I like his character because I think in some ways, like, his character is one of the ones that makes the most sense of why they're in the story. You're like, okay, yeah, like, it makes sense that an FBI agent's there, and I think it's fun to do that, to, like, you know, to investigate, and I especially enjoy that kind of, like, investigative aspect, and, like, you know, being on that end of trying to track down this killer again in a race against time. I really like that. I mean, I wish they'd given him a different voice actor. It's the one thing I'd say, because it kind of undercuts him a little bit. But what do you think of Norman?
Nah, man. Yeah, that's how he speaks, with, like, is it a Brooklyn accent?
Yeah, it's like a mix of, like, a Brooklyn and, like, a Boston.
Yeah, it's very much like a, hey, I'm walking here. Give me a coffee. Exactly. Yeah, I don't know anyone from Boston, so I apologise on behalf of our Boston fan base.
You know Nam and Jaden.
Nam and Jaden, of course. Nyamin. Yeah, his voice is a bit unique in the game. Do you want to know a fun fact about Norman in this game? So, apparently, I was watching a video on I can't remember the name of it, but there's, like, a channel that goes, like, beyond the, the boundaries of the game. I think that's
Yeah.
his name. Something to do with like going beyond the boundaries, like the invisible walls and things to
Nice.
see the game. And apparently, like, this game is really impressive the way they do everything. Like, there's a lot of like, if you're looking at it from a distance, it looks terrible for obvious reasons, but more because, it's like the Norman Jayden, like, chase scene, for example. See when you're chasing someone through the supermarket, it's like if you're watching that from a distance, all of the cutscenes, like when you're pressing like a button to like move side to side, it like teleports them all over the map to like carry out that scene. So it's like he's on the pavement one side, and then, he's sliding over a car in the next shot. And obviously it's seamless because the game's like filming it that way.
Yeah.
So it's like really cool, but when you're actually watching it from that distance, you're like,
Oh god.
oh no.
They
But
just teleported all over the shop.
yeah. Although, fun fact, for some reason, like, when you're chasing that guy, there's, like, a lot of people... You know how you end up in the meat locker at the end of that chapter?
Yeah.
Apparently, there's a lot of people stashed in that meat locker. And I don't know whether that's supposed to be this... Like, that's where they spawn out. Like, it's a lot of NPCs just there. I don't know. The guy was just like, yeah, there's just a lot of people in this meat locker. And you're like, huh, neat. You're just like, okay. Although one thing I did find really interesting was, see, although we didn't get it, there's a scene like with Norman Jayden when you climb up the hill in his like introductory chapter.
Oh yeah?
And you go on the highway, and apparently to make it look busy, you know how there's all the cars like going back and forth on the highway?
Yeah.
Apparently only half of those cars are animated. Or not animated, but like textured. See, if you look at them from the other side, they've got no textures or anything, so they're not...
God.
So they're not fully rendered on the other side, but I thought that's actually quite clever. Like,
That is a clever way to do it.
yeah, it's like to save on resources, I think. Although one of the things I found funny was when they went through one of the skyboxes and it's got like the big watermark on it. It's like from where they got the textures from and things. That is actually quite funny. I do like that. But the reason I brought this up is because the scene where Norman is giving money to the police officer, like for Larry's retirement. That old scene, the one everyone quotes in Heavy Rain. They're like, Larry, we remember you well.
Is it all the marketing material?
Yeah. Well, apparently, see when he takes his wallet out and he gives the money over, apparently that's Scott Shelby's wallet, if you zoom in on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they reuse assets, and...
Fair enough.
Yeah, they didn't reprogram it, so they just gave him Scott Shelby's wallet. So
well, there you go.
Yeah.
Pays to be frugal.
I just thought that was quite an interesting, an interesting tidbit. But yeah, it's like, see the development. Like, I do think this is like a marvel, like at what they did. Whether or not the story holds up, spoilers, it probably doesn't. But we will get to it. But going back to Norman, yeah, I do think he definitely has the most action-packed scenes, I would say.
Yeah.
It's definitely the most intensive. Well, sorry, no. Second most intensive. We'll get to the most intensive later. But yeah, I like him, though. As you said, his voice is a bit grating, but the idea of like the RA and like being able to see the clues and things, I think that's really cool. But what I like as well is they kind of developed that further in Detroit Become Human with the androids. There's a very similar aspect that they did there, and I like that. I do think the detective work and everything, it's cool because you actually get to feel as if you're making progress and you're geo-analysing everything. And we found out there's origami shops because of this game.
It's a fact I never knew.
I think once lockdown kind of simmers down a bit, you and I are going to have to. Yeah, we're going to have to make like a trip to the old origami emporium. I'm sure it's.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no! Go on. No.
No. You finish your thought. Before
No. I was gonna say I'm being too generous that I'm calling it an emporium. It's probably just like a shack made out of paper.
Origami shack.
I'm glad we're on the same wavelength.
I live and die by the origami. I put this much faith in my craft that I built my shop out of it.
Yeah, probably a bad idea in Scotland.
Make that. There's your next idea for your game, David Cage. A man who lives in an origami house.
Or the origami builder.
The origami builder, I love it. Cousin to the origami killer.
So sorry, you were saying before I rudely interrupted.
I was going to say, I think what I like so much about because I agree with you. Like, I really do love the investigation stuff, both in this and in Detroit. I think what is so good about it as well is it feels like some of the more kind of gamey, and I don't mean this in a bad sense, but it feels like more of a game at times where I think a criticism you can level against a lot of David Cage's games is sometimes you're like, oh, it feels more like it is like a kind of movie in a lot of ways rather than a game. But with the investigation stuff, you are having to kind of like walk around, explore a location, like find things, interact with it. So it does feel more like a traditional game in that sense, and that's kind of, I think, what I quite like about them as well.
It feels rewarding with a lot of it. Like, once you find the right clues and everything, and you survive, like, the horrific nature of everything, whether it be, like, with Mad Jack and Paco, who apparently share the same voice actor, which I didn't know.
Mad Jack and Paco?
Apparently so, yeah.
Well, there
Fun
you go.
fact. Talented guy.
That guy's cornering the scumbag.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of the other like levels he's in. Like, there's a lot of chase scenes. It's very much like an X-Files episode. In all seriousness, but he's a fun character. The only thing I don't like about his storyline is he has to deal with a guy called Blake. Now, Blake is like it's something that David Cage carries a lot in these games. I don't know if he does it for Fahrenheit, but he definitely does it for Detroit Become Human as well, where he's got the stereotypical asshole detective. And it gets very grating very fast when the guy just like shits on every single idea, which initially I thought, is this just like a police versus FBI thing? But then later on he's like, see, this is the thing I don't get, and this is something I was like thinking about as I was watching it back. So, the scene where Blake corners Ethan Mars and he's got like a gun to him, and he's like,
the motel.
Yeah, and he's like, you got nowhere to go. And then he jumps off the roof and he's like, oh no, you've got somewhere to go. Like, the thing that really annoyed me about that was the fact that when you're in Nathaniel, so Nathaniel is like a mentally unstable religious zealot who you have to investigate as the origami killer, and he is definitely not the killer. Like, it's established very clearly that he's just very paranoid and everything, and he just keeps egging him on. That way, like, Blake just keeps egging this poor guy on until he brings out like a gun and he starts calling him the Antichrist, and you have to talk him down, and then he kind of berates you later on if you don't shoot him, and he's like, why didn't you shoot him? And it's like, well, I was kind of hoping he would finish the job and shoot you, but like, he's just like a abrasive arsehole at every turn. He should have genuinely been like dismissed long ago. And this is the thing though, like, if you confront him later, there's a scene later where you basically find out who the origami killer is, or you kind of narrow it down, but at one point you can accuse him of being the origami killer, and if you accuse him, then unfortunately it means like game over for that storyline, and I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it, because they all berate Norman like, oh, I can't believe, you're berating, Blake, and it's like, but he's an asshole. He's just an asshole. He's not constructive. He's not, he just seems like a stereotype. He's very much a cliche, and you have to put up with him throughout the entire game as Norman. But not the entire game, like there's some levels where you just...
A good chunk of it, though.
Yeah, about 70 to 80%, I would say.
You've hit the nail on the head. He is a stereotype. He is a walking stereotype. And I like the idea. I like the fact that, like, as one other thing I like about Norman's chapters are that you do get these kind of, like, moral, quote-unquote, moral decisions when, like, you're investigating with Blake, and, as you've said, like, he's like pushing things beyond like proper procedure and everything. There's that scene with Nathaniel. There's also one where you go to interview Ethan Mars' psychiatrist, and Blake like starts like beating him up and everything like that. And it's like, it is very ham-fisted, and like
literally.
it's literally indeed it's undermined because Carter Blake is such a stock character with like literally no depth to him apart from like asshole cop. I like the idea behind it of having to make these kind of moral decisions about like what to do, and like what do you step over the line, in pursuit of the killer and everything like that. And I think it deserves to be done in better hands.
Yeah.
David Cage sometimes who can't quite write these kind of complex ideas.
See, that's the thing. For a game that heavily stresses on your decision matters, there are some moments where it's like it really doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, whether or not you decide to shoot Nathaniel, then it's just like another dialogue option or another like route of dialogue that comes up, and that's it. Like, it's a throwaway line of, why didn't you show them? And that's it. Just nothing comes of it. And you're just like, why bother? At that point of like having it in, like even with Blake, there's no character development. Like, there's no moment where it's like he thinks, oh, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe...
or we get to learn more about him or something.
Like, I mean, this is like a very heavy, like, character-driven game. I'm using character in air quotes here. It's like, it's very intensive in that sense. And it's just a shame, because there's a lot of moments where a lot of these characters do shine. Like, I mean, look at Ethan. He is very much a person who clearly... he loves his children. He loved his wife. His wife just becomes like a one-note character as well.
Yeah, it's a real shame that happens.
Yeah, because at the beginning, she's set up as a stereotypical, oh, hello, I am wife. It's like, oh, hello, wife, I am husband. This is our 2 children, Toyota and Origami. Nice to meet you. But after the accident, he is just living this miserable life, and he's trying to make the best of it. And I think there's something really compelling there. But yeah, like I'll get to why I get irked by it. But there is like a lot of cut content. Again, I think this is one of the cases, a bit like Deadly Premonition, where the development of the game is almost more interesting than the actual game itself.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot of cut content for especially like Ethan's chapters where there was supposed to be a paranormal element to it, where like throughout the game, this is something I forgot to bring up, but throughout the game Ethan has these blackouts, and when he wakes up he has like an origami figure in his hand. That is never explained in the final game, but according to like behind the scene interviews and things, the reason behind it is because he, like in the original draft of the game, you were supposed to do these like levels where you like, where the house like filled with water and you had to like swim around, and it turned out it was a psychic link between him and the origami killer, and he was like accessing his mind or something, and that's why you get the origami figures in his hand. Not a lot of people took to that. A lot of people were like, no, get that shit out of here.
I can see why.
And I know I keep going back to this guy, but one thing that was quite interesting was when that guy who, goes out of the borders to see the level, apparently see the water, that was supposed to fill up the house, apparently that's still underneath the house. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, it's like they save. So what they did was they saved like essential items to bring up. So like I'm assuming like the the orange juice and things like that, to like pop up the frozen pizza. Yeah, there's a whole like cube of water just under the house, and that's what the guy was speculating. He was saying, I think that's maybe because of that level that it's like it's still there, but they obviously didn't incorporate it into the final game, so it just remains there. So, yeah, no, sorry. I just wanted to point that out, because I thought that was quite interesting.
One thing I like about Ethan's story, but, like, it's not developed, which kind of really... It's maybe one of my big, like, annoyances with this game, is there is, for a while, a sense of you actually think Ethan might be the origami killer, and because he has his blackouts, and he himself begins to think it because he can't track his movements, and he's like, God, what if... Like, he's like, what if I did this, like, as a way to, like... Because of the guilt I feel about the death of Jason... I've done this to like test myself with my son. That is a really and I actually noticed it more in the second playthrough when we did our like playthrough of it. And I was like, that's a really interesting idea, and I wish it lent more into that, because it's kind of one of these things where Ethan's like, oh, and you think for a little bit, but then it's kind of quickly like obvious that it's not him, and it's not really ever explored. And like, I'm glad they cut out all that psychic crap, because that sounds terrible. I'm glad that didn't make the fun. But I wish like they'd done more with the blackouts, because I remember I questioned you a couple of times, being like, so why is he blacking out? Where's he getting these origami figures? Like, is this ever explained? And like, it's just annoying that they left that morsel of something very interesting, but then we're like, anyway, like, brushing it aside and just went on to focus on other things. And I thought that could have been a really interesting hook. But clearly just decided not to go with it. But it's a real annoying, because I'd like to see that developed.
You're right. It's a shame that they didn't flesh it out a lot more, because they still keep it in the game. That's the thing that baffles me. Like, it's one thing to cut it out the game, I understand, but you've still got like these dregs. kind of floating about. And you're
Yeah.
like, well, why keep it if you're gonna, like, they never explain why he's got origami in his hand. Like, did he black out and find a piece of paper and was just like, oh, do. Oh, here we go. Here's an origami thing. Like, I wish I could fold origami like that. Like with
I have
my
a very particular talent.
It's like some people can solve Rubik's Cubes, blindfolded. No. This guy does origami. Well, he's blacked out, apparently, in the middle of the street in the pouring rain. It's like, it's a niche set of talent. But I would say like 50%, so that's 50% of the game. You've got Ethan and Jaden, who are both, essential cogs in the wheel of this story.
Yeah.
We do have two more. I think I know the character you want to save till last. Do you mind if I speculate? Or
Yeah, go for it.
is it Madison by any chance?
I would like to say Madison to the end.
Yes. Same. Okay, we'll move on to the third character, that of course being Scott Shelby, who is a portly gentleman. And I'm not body shaming, like, genuinely, keep that in mind when I say that, because it is very important. I'll be testing you guys at the end. So basically, Scott Shelby is a private investigator who has been hired by the families of the origami killer's victims, like the parents of the kids who have died. He goes like to their houses, their places of residence, their work, and basically gathers clues. And as he's on the hunt, he ends up coming across a woman called Laura Winters, I want to say.
Yeah, Lauren? Laura or Lauren? I can't remember.
Or is it Laura? It is Lauren, sorry. Lauren Winters. Yeah, that's it. It's like, yeah, I played this game for 16 weeks, I know. Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, so we get her, who has a very, as you described aptly, a very Tommy Wiseau accent. Or was it? The act, as I said, the voice acting like dips and curves up, and it's all over the place. Yeah, his story basically focuses on trying to find the origami killer from like an outside perspective. So it's like very much not essentially a film noir, but you know what I mean. Like a bit Elliot noir almost, where it's like of all the offices she could have gone into, she had to come into my office, and
It is very much going for that vibe.
Yeah, so he teams up with Lauren, who is she is a mother of one of the children who got killed by the origami killer, and their investigation leads them to Gordy Kramer, who is like basically stereotypical rich bugger, we only actually see this guy once. Like, fun fact, did you ever notice that?
I didn't actually think that.
Yeah, because I never really thought about it until like I rewatched it, and I was like, oh yeah. So they set up Gordy as being the origami killer, and he's like just again stereotypical rich young man who is very childish, and he's like watching French cartoons on TV. I swear to God, it is French cartoons. Type in Heavy Rain cartoon and you will find it on YouTube. Yeah, he's just watching cartoons. He's like very dismissive. He gets his bodyguards to do all his work. So that kind of undermines like him being, a suspect of him being the origami killer. So we spend the whole game trying to figure out, who it is, and then it ends up like his role as the antagonist gets replaced by his dad. It kind of falls into ludicrousy. Like, it's interesting because I do like it. The Scott Shelby stuff deals with like a lot of really serious topics. Like, I feel as if it's like the most hard hitting, because I mean, you've got a scene where obviously when we go to see Lauren, she thinks that he's another client, and then like accuses him of like wanting to get as she quotes, a freebie and everything, and you see like this kind of horrible world that this woman's fallen into. She's in this horrible apartment, she's selling herself, and then like an abusive client comes in and you get to decide whether or not you want to intervene. It's a horrible situation all around. You've got other situations where you've got one of the other mothers who basically slit her wrists and has like put herself in a bath while leaving her baby, unattended. You've got the shopkeeper who nearly gets shot, and you have to like talk down and or punch the lights out of this robber called Andrew, which was quite funny.
It was one Satsunami chose.
Yes, it was a very technically I didn't choose it because I thought I got the right prompts and I didn't, so I just had to fail. And just be like, yeah, no, you're going down, punk.
Green shields.
Yeah, take that. And you've got who is the other one you go to? Wait, I think that's it, isn't it?
No, I think that's the three of them. I don't think there's a...
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah. But they're all like, as I said, they're all very hard-hitting things. And then you basically find out later on that there has been a murder in the Kramer family. Not to be confused with Kramer from Seinfeld, but...
I'd play the Seinfeld sound effect here if I had it.
What's the deal with origami?
I'm glad Seinfeld ended before that. They had to go to that storyline of
Oh, God, yeah.
murdering a child by accident. Hilarity ensued.
Hey, look, it's Kramer. I didn't mean it. Laughter track here. It's like, oh no, Kramer. So, yeah, eventually, I wouldn't say it's a stereotype. I think this is basically where Scott Shelby's character kind of goes out the window, is when you get tied up to like a steering wheel. Sorry, you get knocked out with Lauren, you get tied to a steering wheel, and they throw the car at the bottom of the ocean. You would have thought they'd just shoot them while they were unconscious there and then, but I don't know.
Where's the drama in that?
No,
exactly. Where's the drama?
Yeah, next you'll be telling me, why didn't the Eagles take the ring to Mordor? You know.
Why didn't the Eagles stop the origami killer?
Yeah, well, if any Tolkien fans in the chat, or, those listening at home want to tell us, please feel free. Why didn't the Eagles stop the origami killer? And don't say it's because they could talk and think. It's like, the matters of men are not our concern. It's like, there are children dying, you insensitive buggers. So yeah, basically, after you free yourself, and can I just say, like, the reason that we were laughing at that scene so much after I said I got the mix up with the Steve McQueen and the Lightning McQueen thing, is we noticed that there's like 2 separate scenes of that where... Oh god, yeah, there's 2 separate scenes where someone's tied to a steering wheel. It's like a really weird niche. I don't know whether it's a coincidence or it's just like David Cage being David Cage. I don't get it. Yeah, that aside, so back to Scott Shelby's story. Yeah, he ends up going John Wick on the house. Like, he drives through the gate and he ends up like shooting everyone with not only pinpoint accuracy, but he never has to reload. And then he confronts Kramer and everything, who, of course, is like, he's begging for his life because he's like, my pills, and you can decide whether or not to give him the pills, and you think, oh, maybe I will give him the pills, and then he says something, like, he comes away with something where he's like, oh, it's okay. What does he says again? He's like,
it was just a street urchin.
Yeah, it was just a street urchin.
Something to that effect.
Yeah, no one's gonna miss this dead child. And it's like, why would you say that if you were begging for your life? It's just so dumb. I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it.
It's also a character. It's also a complete like 180 character, like reverse of that character, because earlier on we see him putting flowers on a grave of a child who died in one of his construction sites, and he does that every year. So the guy will do that every year for some random child who's also like a quote unquote street urchin. But he's all of a sudden like, whoa, it's just street urchins, chin chin. One of them won't be missed.
Another one to the pyre, Jeeves. Down.
It's just such like, I don't know. It's just like one of these things of being like, excuse. I am a bad guy. Did you get that? I am a bad guy.
Yeah, it's a trope that Cage like never shakes off. It's always
There's no subtlety.
Yeah, I'm just reading a message that someone sent me there, just regarding the the French cartoons we were talking about.
Oh yeah,
and they were basically saying that there are 2 cartoons. That's right, where how David Cage, or not David Cage, when you're in Ethan Mars's house and Sean's like watching one with pirates.
Oh yeah.
And that is a depressing one, by the way. I have seen that. Yeah, I watched both of them at full length, and it is weird. They're very well animated, don't get me wrong, really well animated, but just weird stories. And one's called Voodoo, the person said, and the other's Pirate, I think, or Pirate. I think it might be Pirate, because obviously Pirate, but they're both drawing by Les Gobelins, I think. Goblins? I don't know the pronunciation, I apologise. And apparently they usually work for Disney and Pixar. Huh. So there you go.
There you go.
I wonder how they got the rights to them then. Unless it was just like shorts they commissioned, maybe.
Maybe some freelance a few things.
Like as I said, like go like look it up on YouTube. They're just very weird choices because they don't really fit in with the aesthetic of the game. You've only got really 3 channels in this world. Sorry, 2. One shows French cartoons, the other shows the news. You've got no in between.
No wonder there's so many serial killers.
I mean, you're not...
Can't take any more French cartoons, damn it.
Well, yes. Yeah. As we know, French cartoons are known for their brevity and their, lightheartedness. Whether it be a chicken getting his head chopped off or a pirate getting hung, or hanged. Very light topics. And speaking of light topics, we get a flashback scene where, going back to Scott's story, like after that, nonsense, we get, a flashback where we see 2 children playing in a construction yard, and one of them, of course, falls into a massive hole. I don't know how, but he just falls into a massive hole filled with water, and he's like, Scott, please get help. I just spoiled it, but you know what's coming. You know there were spoilers. He's like, go get help. And of course he's running, he's trying to get his deadbeat dad, who's another caricature. So we've got a couple of if you want to play at home the bingo caricature card, we've got the asshole cop, the asshole rich guy, the asshole deadbeat dad. I mean, who's the 4th guy?
The asshole ex-boyfriend, from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, of course, yeah. Mm-hmm. The one that you have to...
Who completes the...
Yeah,
the quartet.
Exactly, the square of infamy. Honestly, this game should be called Heavy Drain. Amount of characters.
Put that on the box.
Yeah, Heavy Drain. It's a drain. But, oh no, it wouldn't be Heavy Drain because then, what's his face would have lived. But anyway, enough about Sean. So yeah, eventually it's revealed that, and again, this is when we're getting deep into spoilers, it is revealed that Scott Shelby, the man who you've been playing as this entire time, is indeed the origami killer. And he has actually not been hired by the families, but he's been collecting all the evidence. Which, when I first played this game, did you see it coming? Initially,
unfortunately, I had this spoiled for me before.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because I played this 6 years later, and I managed to avoid the spoilers for a good few years, but they got me. They caught up with me in the dark alley and
shanked you with the truth. Yeah,
shanked me exactly.
We're gonna tell you a spoiler you're never gonna forget. No, Norman, no.
I don't think I would have seen it coming though.
Yeah. I actually can't remember. I think I did get it spoiled for me as well, but I can't remember if I did or not. But I do remember thinking, oh, that's a cool twist. Now, I do have a problem with this. And don't worry, I'll get to, the finale. We'll kind of, tie a bow on it and, talk about the finale on its own. When you really dissect it, it does not make sense for a lot of it. You can understand why he'd be so jaded and everything, but considering he is an ex-policeman, and he served his time, he served his life, protecting people, and then all of a sudden one day he saw a random guy get hit by a car, and he was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to start murdering kids now. What?
Yeah.
And I'm going to put origami on their graves. It's like, wait, what? What? I beg your pardon, kind sir. Get back here and tell us what the hell you're thinking. Oh yeah, and I'm going to grow orchids. It's like, this seems like a very complicated modus operandi.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, simplify it a little bit. Oh, and I'm going to drown them with rainwater. Why? Because my brother died like that. It's like, what? Oh, God. I get... See, this is the thing. This is actually something I was thinking of before. I think David Cage should have been a builder because his foundations in any of his games are always solid.
Yeah.
Anything beyond that. Well, except for beyond
Would you trust him to put up the walls and the roof and everything and the floor? The foundations, yes, but...
Yeah, the foundations, he does. I will admit, David Cage does have great ideas. Whether it's Detroit, whether it's this, I will not extend the same to Beyond Two Souls. I will never extend it because that game is just a waste of time. That's for another Satsunami, but long story short, it's a game I loathe with a passion. I don't agree with any of it, but Heavy Rain is the only one where I'm like, you know what? I like the foundation. Like, I like the ideas that
Yeah.
he's bringing in. The fact that it's like a guy who was betrayed by his father and everything, but he's a bit late in the game trying to get into the killer business after being a policeman. He's not like a retiree in Spain or something, where he's like, oh well, you know, I've. You know, it's like, oh well, I've tried all the sights here, better go jump off a balcony. And it's like, what? That is well, no, literally and figuratively, a huge jump. But it's like, why would you do that? You know, why would you go from, you know what, maybe life isn't too bad, and then he sees Ethan get hit by a car, and he's like, I should kill children.
Like, it's horrible, they almost die.
Yeah. I don't get that. Like, if you think, this is the thing, if you switch off your brain, and again, I don't recommend that, but if you switch off your brain, it's fine. If you don't switch off your brain, then it makes no sense. And the asthma thing as well, like, the asthma thing does not come into it at all, does it?
No, it's just one of these things that a couple of times appears up, but at points where you're like, well, this could make a cool scene, because there's one thing about, to go jump back to Norman Jayden, and because of his like Ari thing, for some reason he like suffers some hallucinations, and he needs to take this like drug to like to combat them, and there's like a choice, you know, if you want to keep taking the drug or you want to try and fight, like, you know, the fight through the like the pain like without it, and like at some key points, like the addiction hits him and stuff, and he can't function, and it kind of adds something. And you felt like they could have done something with the asthma thing, but like Scott Shelby is able to John Wick his way through a whole bloody mansion of like, you know, of goons, and doesn't break a sweat, and never once needs his inhaler. And you're right, it's just such like a, I don't know, it adds nothing to the character. Things you just have to use like an interactive prompt to use my inhaler. Let's throw that in there.
Yeah, they do that at the very beginning, like his first chapter where they establish him and he takes an asthma attack. And don't get me wrong, like obviously, neither of us have asthma, so I'm not like speaking on behalf of any asthma communities here. But I don't think somebody with asthma who gets knocked out, put in the bottom of a lake in a sinking car, he manages to break free, swim up to the top without, you know, his inhaler, in the heavy rain as well, and he's sitting there. And then, as you said, like, he goes immediately to driving through, unless he took his inhaler off screen, I don't know. But, you know, it's like he smashes through the door, he shoots everybody, you know, like, as we said, John Wick style. Yeah, and it never gets brought back. There's a slight hint when there's the flashback, you know, like, when he's doing the, like, you know, he's running for his dad, trying to help, but that's it. There's nothing. There's nothing else. No real follow-up, no anything really, and that's disappointing. It feels as if at that point on, it becomes more of an action game. And there is a lot of action in this game, don't get me wrong, but something like that, like, I remember watching a review of the game, like a really in-depth review. The guy who did it was fantastic in his, like, dissection. But one of the things he brought up is, he was saying, like, it would have made more sense to have Norman Jayden in this kind of situation. You know, like, fighting his way through different, you know, like a whole room of people, because he's an FBI agent. Like, he's literally trained for this. Scott Shelby's just a portly, well, he's a killer, but I'm not being funny, but you don't have to be John Wick to, like, kidnap kids, surely.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and that's a sentence I'll never say again, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just a weird disconnect. It's like you go from kind of relating to this earnest, well, you think earnest guy who's trying to solve these murders to, all of a sudden that. And I don't get, like, there's a lot I don't get about his story. Why does he go after Kramer even though he knows that he's the killer? And
that's the question I wanted to ask you, actually, because I was like, I was thinking about it, and I was like, I get the first bit where he's going around collecting the evidence. That makes sense to me, and I'm like, right, that's fine. But then I'm like, but yeah, why does he fixate on Kramer? Like, is it? And maybe it's something I missed when we were playing through it a second time. But is it like Lauren who, like, he kind of gets like almost forced into, like, you know, going after Kramer by Lauren? Is that what happens, or is it just like, it's like, oh well, we need more chapters for Scott, so go get that guy.
Yeah, I actually can't even remember how he gets introduced into it.
And if like he's there, and because he ends up teaming up with like that Lauren Winters. If she was like driving him forward and being like, oh look, you know, she just won't go away, and like she won't leave him alone, and he's pushing in, and like maybe like he starts to develop a kind of relationship. I mean, as well, like, can we go into like their relationship?
Yeah, go for it.
They'd end up developing a relationship, and like if you rescue her from the car, they end up like having this kiss. And I'm like, where this came out of nowhere. Like, and never at one point did I like think there was like romantic chemistry between the two of them. Like I thought it was more like a working kind of partnership, and like I prefer that, to be honest. I'm just like, oh, it's so stupid. It makes sense if she's like driving the investigation and he's being forced into pushing that way, but I don't recall that being a thing. I just recall him like turning up at this at the party at the mansion.
I don't get why there was that. And like, if anybody listening to this wants to, correct us, please feel free to let us know. Like, genuinely, we would love to hear like if there's any reason behind that. But as it stands, like, I genuinely don't remember any of it, like, or any reason for it. And even the stuff with like Manfred, I will admit that's a good chapter. There's a chapter where you find a handwritten letter, or not, sorry, a typed letter that's been like typed up in a really old typewriter, and you have to go to one of Scott Shelby's old friends and everything, and he's like the only one who can kind of tell them who this typewriter belongs to or what type of typewriter it is. Try saying that 3 times drunk. And there's a scene where the origami killer, wink wink, well, it reveals at the end it was Scott, but he ends up like killing Manfred, and you have to rub the place down before like the police come, and that's a tense scene. That's a really good scene. I do like that. That's a really well done scene. As I said, like nuggets of good bits, and then just I
honestly wish like the origami killer hadn't been any of the playable characters. Like, it feels like a twist for the sake of a twist, and I feel that's like something that David Cage has like written himself into a corner now. I feel like any kind of his work, he has to have some sort of twist in it, and I just feel like it's one that it's one that you're like, oh, that's cool the first time you play it. Oh no way, didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
But then, kind of what I was talking about, like replaying these games, you're like, hang on a second, wait a minute here. What's all this daylight I can see through these cracks here?
That's the thing, though. When you replay the game, so it's like, when you play or watch a film that has like a twist at the end, and the kind of, personally for me, the sign of a good version of like, whether it's a movie or a game, is seeing the signs when you replay it again. So for the first time, it shouldn't be clear. There should be hints, but it shouldn't be clear that X or Y is the villain. But then it'll build up, and then it'll be like, oh my god, Scott Shelby's the origami killer. And I feel sorry for anyone just dropping into this particular moment. Apologies. What? I was halfway through. Unsubscribe. But yeah, like when you replay it, there's not really any clues, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some bits and pieces, but I mean, there's even one scene that I pointed out to you, I think. I thought it was really interesting, but it went nowhere. Was if you don't rub all of the prints like off the walls and everything, then you get pulled into the police station. And I find that annoying because nothing comes of that scene.
Yeah.
You just get a kind of, oh, don't do that again. And Blake ends up bailing Scott Shelby out because they're old, work colleagues. And that's it. Like, there's a kind of, he's like, oh, don't worry, I've got your back and everything. You can be my wingman anytime. Top Gun 3, Heavy Rain. But, it's another film I haven't seen. Anyway, this isn't about the films I haven't seen. This is Heavy Rain. That didn't go anywhere. And I feel as if that's a missed opportunity as well. Because that could have been a turning point of Blake realising, that someone who he was close to, was the origami killer. But he never finds out that Scott Shelby's the origami killer until presumably the end. Where if you get the right ending, then he's seen it on the news and he's spitting his Cheerios out, And then he gets so shocked that he has to change it to the French cartoons on the other side.
To get some normalcy back. But that's the problem with Scott Shelby's chapters as well, is like with the other 3 characters, there are chances where their story can end, like death or like imprisonment or something like that. That can never happen with Scott Shelby. Scott Shelby has to be there at the end. So literally, there's no way to fail any of his chapters. Even like shoot out, getting like trapped in the car underwater, like confronting the robber in the store. You can never there's no danger of with any of Scott Shelby's chapters, and so that that is a problem as well, I think, in it. And that, like, playing it once, you don't obviously know that, but, like, replaying it, you're like, well, why am I even bothering pressing these buttons? Why don't I just set the controller down when Scott Shelby's chapter comes on? Because it's going to continue, the story, regardless.
Again, it goes back to what I was saying about, like, this myth of, like, player agency. That way where it's like, it's saying that this is a game where your choices matter, unless you're Scott Shelby or Ethan Mars. Because even Ethan Mars can't die in this game.
Well, that's true. He can go to prison, though. He can at least get arrested, which kind of, like, curtails...
Yeah.
Like, can't do the final challenge, right?
Yeah, the only two people who can, like, die completely is... In fact, I think Ethan can do up to the final chapter, or the final challenge.
Okay.
Or trial, even. Because I think that's when he gets arrested at the hotel. That's, like, the one before he has to drink the poison in the final trial. Which, that makes no sense as well. So, sorry, before we move on to the final character, we've got Scott Shelby, who set up all these elaborate traps. First of all, I mean, I obviously, I'm not American, like neither of us are, unless you've been keeping a secret from me.
Oh my god, I've been found out.
Get a coffee. They found us out.
Are you a co-op?
You a co-op? Anyway, that aside...
Pardon my terrible accent there.
Oh, no. You're amongst friends here.
I apologise.
But we're working on a book club / bad American accents club, It's a niche, but I think it would really take off. But that's the thing, though. It's like the amount of effort it took to actually set this up. You've got the trial with the car, which... Someone pointed that out, that the car's been sitting there for about over 2 years, and although it's been serviced, no other father took the car. Unless, like, they did the trials out of order, maybe. I don't know. You've got the one at the power plant where it's meant to be abandoned, but all of the, like, pylons are on and everything, and there's, like, there's a massive pipe which is only barely big enough for Ethan to fit in, and it's filled with glass. And I'm sorry, but Scott Shelby is a very portly figure. Like, if you Google Scott Shelby Heavy Rain, he is a chunky boy. There is no way he fitted in there and sprinkled all that glass. How he got the glass in there and the pylons on, I don't know. The third one kinda makes sense, because the one where you have to chop off your finger, because it's like an abandoned apartment. That makes sense. The White Room, I don't get.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, we have Deadly Premonition or Twin Peaks at that point. You're like, we've stumbled into the wrong game here.
Yeah, because all of them are, minus the, the crawling through glass one, all of them are relatively realistic.
Yeah. Oh, don't forget the one where you have to burst into that guy's apartment.
Oh, yeah. And just shoot him dead.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, though. They're all realistic. It's like, drive on the wrong side of the road, climb, like, through a dangerous power plant, like those old, like, PSA videos or PSE videos we used to watch in school. It's like, I'll get the ball. And Ethan Mars never came back. Don't climb through pylons, kids. But, you've got that. You've got the cutting off your finger in a derelict apartment. You've got shooting a guy, really. That's all he had to do. All of them are realistic. But then you get to the final one where he has to drink poison. And that is relatively, like, down to earth. But you walk through this room where it's like a red corridor. And then you get to the end and it's this white room filled with cameras. What? Where? Why? How?
It's weird.
They never really establish where it is, do they?
No.
Like,
it's just a random place.
Yeah, it's just a random room. And I don't know, is it a trap room? Is it an escape room? I don't know. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't know much about, like, American police's salary, but I don't think the pension stretches that far that he can hire the club out, or not the club, but the room out just for a trial. It's like, oh, we're going to prank my friend. It's going to be so funny. That's why I've got all the cameras set up. It's like, no, this isn't how
Scott.
Oh, you scallywag.
Classic Shelby prank here.
Oh, who else but Shelby? But speaking of scallywags, will we move on to the crown shit of this? And I'm not calling the character that, I just mean the, yes, Madison Page. Where do we begin? I'm going to let you lead with this one, because this is definitely a part of the game that, I said this before, kind of half-jokingly, but it vexes me ever so.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you lead with this one.
So Madison Page is a journalist who suffers from insomnia and basically ends up going to the same motel that Ethan Mars is staying at. They end up connecting there, and that's kind of how she falls into the story. And if that sounds tenuous, it's because it really is tenuous. She's a character that doesn't belong in this game, in the sense of, like, it doesn't make sense why she's in it. it always feels forced. A lot of her chapters feel so divorced from anything that's happening in the game, and like I feel bad that it's the female character who's lumbered with this. It is good to have a female character, but I just wish it was like it was an impactful, like there was reasons for her to be in the game. You know, it's like he wanted 4 characters. And honestly, this game would work better with 3 characters. I think we talked about this. I can't remember if we talked about it, like during our playthrough or whether it was off mic. But like this game would work so much better with 3 characters. And I think we said if you want to have make Norman Jaden, you know, switch his gender, you know, make that a female character, and that would work fine.
Yeah,
and that would be good. You know, you could have a bit of a Silence of the Lambs type thing, you know, which isn't a bad thing at all if you want to go down that route. But like her character, there's no reason for, like. That's the problem. That's the problem I have with the character. There's no reason for her to be in this story. I mean, I was reading that a lot of her content ended up getting cut, especially explaining like her background, her backstory, and things, and it really suffers. Like you can tell, and the character just suffers from it, and it's just a paper thin. Pardon the pun. It's a paper thin character, and like just there's no reason for her to be there.
The thing is, like, I don't want to get at the character or say, you know, oh, this is the worst character ever, because I don't think it's like the actress's fault or,
no.
You know, because this is the thing I do worry about. Like, see, when I do like rant on character, unless they're horrible people in private, I don't know. But you know, like, I don't want to rant and be like, oh, this person's terrible. You know, like they're not. It's to do with David Cage's writing heavily.
Yeah.
Heavy writing, let's say. But I do think that his writing of female characters is one of the worst I've ever seen. You know, you get those. You get like the jokey people who write female characters when they clearly don't understand how to write a female character. Yeah. He is one of them. And his, like, creepy writing definitely shows. And it made me feel uncomfortable at times. And I think you felt probably the same at some moments. And it's as you said, there's a lot that was cut from her story. Like, for example, she was supposed to, like... I don't know if you read this, but apparently there was supposed to be more of her, like, going to, like, a newspaper office or something like that.
Yeah, which would have been really cool, like, because that's what I saw as well. Like, it was meant to be her writing up stories. And if there was... That sounds like more kind of investigation stuff, which actually sounds really interesting. I actually would love to have seen that develop more. And I saw as well, like, she was supposed to be a war correspondent, which is what she's suffering from insomnia because she's suffering from kind of like a PTSD type thing. Like, and that makes more sense as well. But like, we don't get any of that. We just get this woman who suffers from insomnia and who basically stumbles into the plot.
Yeah.
Just gets caught up in it. Like, just it's like, you know, gets caught in like a magnet or something. And it's just so forced, and you're like, it's just such a shame. It's a real shame for something that could have been interesting. It's just so blech, you know.
And fun fact, this is my favourite fact about this character. She is the only one. I don't know if that's the case now, but I did hear that apparently she's the only character with a wiki page. Like a proper wiki page, not like a fan one or anything. And I thought,
well, at least she has that.
I just thought that is just so weird. I mean, this is the thing as well. She seems like a cross between like an adult Nancy Drew and a damsel in distress, you know? She kind of flip-flops between the two. And I'm not saying that again. I'm not trying to be derogatory, but she almost feels like she's very sexualized in this game.
Oh, God, yeah.
And it's something that made me feel quite uncomfortable because we were playing it, and I can't remember if it's one of the earlier episodes that we did, but there's basically a scene where you wake up basically in like a vest top and your underwear, and you're running around the apartment trying to like fall asleep. You have like, you know, you try to take pills, you try to have warm milk, you know, nothing's working. So you go into the shower, which looks like a gulag shower, as you pointed out before. There's like 3 shower heads in this massive like apartment that just looks weird, and she turns on the shower and she strips off completely naked. I mean, don't get me wrong, like Ethan Mars does something similar at the beginning, but we all know the obvious difference there, and they just show her full body off, well, obviously except down under, but they show like, you know, her breasts like completely exposed and everything. I had to blur the whole thing out. I was like, oh my god, this is terrible. It's unnecessary, because right after you have a shower and you come out, these like guys start trying to attack you. and start trying to stab you, and it's just these like random men in balaclavas. It's like a terrifying scene. You're like this like defenseless person running around in her underwear, might add, trying to fight these people off, and at the end, even if you succeed, she still gets her throat slit. And the twist is that it's all a dream. I think, obviously, other than the gratuity, that like annoys me is the fact that this scene is where we get introduced to Madison.
Yeah.
Everybody else, like Ethan gets his happy family intro, and then he loses his son. We see this slow descent into depression. We see Norman Jayden getting thrown into the thick of it by seeing like a dead child at the crime scene. We see like Scott Shelby. Again, he's got a very gritty introduction, meeting Lauren and, you know, like her place of work, you know, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And then we get Madison, who is just this woman in skimpy underwear. We don't know anything about her until the next couple of chapters, which isn't for a while. But yeah, that's all we get, unless you like go around and you read about it, and it's weird. It's a weird choice to decide this is how we're going to, you know, introduce a character. And something that annoys me as well is, I don't know if this is only for the American box art, but there's one of the box arts that she is like 70% of the like cover, and she's in her underwear on the cover, and that really irks me because she does have an outfit throughout the game. She's got like the biker jacket, she's got the jeans, but she wears that in the front cover, and that's a clear choice. That's a clear, oh look, we've got these three, you know, grizzled men who have gone through hardship, but look, we got a dainty female. And it's like, this seems like a weird decision in the department, you know, or the, you know, like creative department to be like, this is how we're going to advertise her. And I wouldn't be as harsh on it if this was like I still would be harsh on it, but if it was a one-off, you would think, okay, David, you know, he's learned his lesson. He doesn't learn his lesson. There's like several cases of this, isn't there?
Yeah. She gets shot in such a leery camera for like so much of the game, but I think nearly all her chapters have some form of like leering, like, you know, the camera like holds on like, you know, a particular part of her body, you know, a point. It's just, you're right, it's just uncomfortable. It really was just good playing for it again. I was like, this is just uncomfortable. We both had that same reaction. And you just add that to the fact that like there's like there isn't any discernible reason of why she's in this story and like why she gets caught up in it, and like her and Ethan like can develop a relationship, or does it always happen?
You can decide not to kiss her.
You can decide not to.
Yeah, sorry.
But they always either they get in a relationship or they get close to a relationship. I don't really get why. It's just, I don't know, it's just one of these things. It's like, well, it's a man and a woman. What else is going to happen? You know, like, David Cage's looking at me like I'm the weird one for questioning this. But like, it's just such a shame because it is just the worst of that. What feels like a token female character. Well, I mean, like, hey, we have a woman in here, and wow, does she look good in this? Does she look good in skimpy clothes?
Well, to be fair though, this game was set in the 1950s. I mean, it was set during... Oh, sorry, one sec. Oh, right, okay, sorry, I checked my notes, it's 2010. David Cage, what the fuck?
Oh, well, it was a different time. 2010 was a different time.
Yeah, 2010. Yeah, apparently that was a time where it was acceptable.
Better.
We didn't, yeah. 10 years on, or 11 years on, we know the errors of our ways. No, it wasn't better then, and it's certainly not. It hasn't aged well at all.
Yeah.
The thing is, as I said before, like and I didn't really notice this until I thought about it there, but like every interaction Madison has with any other character, 9 times out of 10 is usually a negative one. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Like she interacts with the motel receptionist. He is just another leery, like he's got the stereotypical voice of Madison Page. Look at you, you're 27 and you're single. And you're like, what is this? What is this weird, like jelly bean looking beast right in front of me? Get back to the shadows, you gremlin. The rest of them are either serial killers or leeches. Like, this is something I did find funny playing back. There's a scene where you follow up in a lead for the origami killer, and you find this doctor, quote unquote doctor, someone who's been like, you know, discharged, and he like works out of his home. If you take like the drink drink that he offers you, which I did by accident. Like, not as in, oh, I didn't know what was going to happen. It's like the
That was the goof I thought you were talking about.
Yeah, as you were saying earlier, yeah, this game has a weird, like, thing for, like, it'll give you prompts to select, and I think in Detroit Become Human they did it a lot better because it's like it's solid and it doesn't move around, but in this like they float around your head, and like I thought I was pressing one button and it happened in the other, and it's terrible for that. But that's the thing though, if you like get knocked out by him in some form or another, he ends up taking you to the basement, tying you down. And can I just say, it's a weird coincidence that there's two serial killers in this game, and they both know one another. It's a small world. I wonder if they go to a book club together, or an origami club, because there is no way, like Tuesdays with Maury featuring Creepy Doctor and/or the origami killer. It is weird. I don't get it. But yeah, she gets tied down, and he basically puts a drill towards her. Like, it doesn't obviously touch or anything, but, like, basically points at her lady bits, and it's an unnecessary, uncomfortable scene. And on the one hand, I get, like, for some reason I hear David Cage in my head saying something like, but you see, you're supposed to feel uncomfortable because he's a villain. And it's like, but if every single villain in this game is, like, stereotypical and comical, that's not good writing. That's not... And obviously, I've not written a game that sold like millions of copies or whatever. Like I can't sit here and be like, oh, I would have written it better, but I wouldn't have written that in, certainly. I wouldn't have written in like a creepy doctor who clearly tries to touch her up and everything, tries to be a bit leery, as you said, and then you go to a club, and the only way that you can actually like get the attention of the guy that you need information from is by like making yourself quote unquote sexy and doing like a very like doing the dance and everything, and then when you actually go up to his office to do a private dance, let's say, you're forced to like striptease, where they actually, like, if you do it wrong and you don't like immediately know the lamps behind you, like to knock the guy out, then you can basically dress her down to her pants and that's all she'll be wearing. And it's another thing where apparently that is a thing that Sony and David Cage fought over, because he was like, oh, Madison has a nice body and everything, and it's like, Mr. Cage, why
they let him keep that.
Yeah, they let him keep that for some reason. I think at that point Sony were just like, yeah, whatever, just publish the game and get out of my office. It seems like a weird thing to be insistent on. And that's the thing though, like, I don't know, like, I've heard like some people describe her as like quite a, like a strong female character and everything, but I'm sorry, if a game involves you like crushing somebody's balls using 4 button prompts, I don't know if you can. And I'm not even being like silly here and being like, haha, imagine if that was a thing. That is a genuine scene where you end up like knocking the guy who's like holding you at gunpoint, you knock him out, and then you have to squeeze his balls for information, and then make like, like moans and things. Yeah, and you have to make moans to like dissuade the guard from coming in and everything. It's just as dumb. It is dumb and stupid, and 9 times out of 10, like as I said, she's always the damsel in distress, or if she's not the damsel, she's the love interest, and it seems very reductive. Like even at the end when she confronts Scott Shelby and is like, oh, I see ya, like pointing the gun and everything. Oh no, sorry, she doesn't have a gun, he has a gun, and she gets like locked in his room and she has to escape and everything. All this game is missing is like a train track and her tied to it, because we might as well.
Scott Shelby had a mustache to twirl, that's about it.
Yeah, let's see if Ethan can rescue you this time. And he runs off in like comical fashion. But it's like, why is that necessary? I do agree. I think if Norman was maybe gender bent, or like if they focused on the 3 characters, that might have worked better. And maybe they could have absorbed like some other aspects into their stories. Yeah. Like into their past.
They've been done, would you say?
Yeah. Is there anything else? Sorry, because I just spent like the last 10 minutes ranting there about that character, sorry.
No, like, I can't think, I my major problem with the Madison character, and it's just a real shame. It's just such a shame to be like, ragging on like the one female character and be like, oh, she's pointless and like, she's just there for her body. It's like, oh my god, she's like all these things, but that's the way she's created in this game. It's like, I don't know, it almost felt like they were like, oh, here we go, we've built kind of complex backstories, and complex characters for these 4 characters, and it was like, right, we need to cut one. It's like, well, we're going to cut the woman one, obviously. Any problems with that? I need to say, nope, let's do it. So like, it's just a real shame. It's just, and I reading that stuff about the newspaper sections, I was like, that would have been so fun. That would have been so good to have like more investigation type things. And she could have been doing different leads to like Norman and everything. And yeah, it's just really, I just feel kind of like just sad that we got the Madison character that we did in this game.
It's a shame. It really is.
Yeah,
like I said.
It really is.
And the thing that I really, this is like the final point I'm going to make on Madison, but the fact that when this game came out, they planned like a whole series of DLC called like, I think it's Heavy Rain Chronicles, they were going to call it. And basically it was going to be chapters that fleshed out the different characters. So they were going to focus on like why Norman's addicted to tryptophan, the quote-unquote fake drug, that he takes to support his like RA addiction. It was going to dive into Scott Shelby. I think maybe Ethan might have got one. I don't know. But like, it would have been interesting to see those kind of things. But the only one we got was one for Madison, and it's basically torture porn. That's all I can describe it as. It's gratuitous again. It's basically called the chapter's called The Taxidermist, and Madison is like on the hunt for the origami killer when, surprise, surprise, she comes across another murderer. So we've got 3 murderers, or 3 serial killers rather, in this game. Like, is this city just filled with serial killers? I don't like 3 killers like in the one circle. I mean that's a book club. That's not that's not a fleshed out story. But yeah, she ends up going upstairs and she sees all these women who have either been gutted or like stuffed with basically taxidermied. Yeah, thus the taxidermist. Yeah. And you basically have to sneak out and hide and run away. And even when I've never played it, but even when I was watching other people playing it, I was on the edge of my seat. I couldn't watch it. It was so intense and horrible. And that's the only DLC we got for this game. And you think, great. So not even the fact that they could have focused on like her as a war correspondent or, like her time at the newspaper or anything. They just had to get one more of her being a damsel in distress. And although she fights her way out these situations, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like she's like useless, but it is definitely the most superfluous character, I would say.
Yeah.
Like the most unnecessary, and I hate saying that because as you said, like I don't want to rant either and be like, oh, it's the female character, but it's the way she's been written into the story, and I just think it's a damn shame.
Yeah,
that really that's the case. But speaking of damn shames, we'll be kind of briefly talking the finale.
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah.
I'll let you describe it.
Presuming that you've managed to Leland and Madison and Norman Jayden.
You're thinking of Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I was went Twin Peaks there for some reason. But if you presuming that Norman and Madison are like still alive, and Ethan's not in prison or whatever, everybody arrives. So Ethan solves all the trial, so for each trial that he solves, he gets a clue to like Sean's location, his son's location. So he arrives there. We find out that Scott Shelby's the killer. Scott Shelby will confront Ethan about him being the killer, and will say like, he's always he's testing to find the perfect father, that he never had. And then he will try to, Ethan will go to try and save Sean, and Scott will draw a gun. And that moment, Norman Jayden will show up and attack Scott, and they'll both run off to have a fist fight up on the roof of this kind of abandoned warehouse, while Ethan concentrates on rescuing Sean from like the grate, which is rapidly filling with water. And Madison arrives outside, and the police have also got to the warehouse, and they think that Ethan is the origami killer. And Madison arrives to try and tell them that tell them that he's not. But they won't. Carter Blake won't listen to her, so she ends up doing sick motorcycle tricks to get around the police, and then gets inside to warn Ethan. And basically, it ends up with like Ethan manages to rescue Sean and get out with Madison. While if everything goes according to plan, Norman will like get the upper hand on Scott, and Scott will end up precariously hanging off this like conveyor belt with like a set of grinding gears below. And you have the choice of whether to save him or whether to just let him fall into it. And then you get your ending from there. I missed that one?
No, you got it perfectly. It's just
I just watched her playthrough again yesterday, so
No,
keep it.
no, you got it perfectly. It's just, it feels just like it completely. The thing that annoys me is, as you said, like Scott draws a gun to kill Ethan, and you're like, why would someone who put him through all of this, draw a gun?
Yeah.
And try to kill the guy who's clearly completed all the trials, has done everything you've asked, and then he'll still try to kill him. And the only time he doesn't try to kill you is if Madison and Norman die. So I don't get what was going on in their head there when they were like, oh yeah, he's only allowed to come alone, but everyone else is like, nah, you're not getting out of here alive. I don't get it. I don't get why they decided to go that route, but I don't know. It seems like it's trying to be like over the top, and I wouldn't say bombastic because there's not a lot of explosions or anything. It's just more fist fights, really, and kind of more realistic. Well, realistic in quotes, but yeah, like you can obviously get so many endings in this game. There is one thing I do want to point out just very briefly. Have you ever noticed that Madison, see at the very end of the game when you escape, well, if you escape the origami killer's like apartment after it blowing up, after you hide in the fridge, just want to say that, after you hide in the fridge and survive an explosion, you come out and you have the choice of phoning Norman or Ethan. It makes absolutely zero sense because Ethan, like, is going through all these, like, horrific events and everything, and he's failed, and it kind of undermines it, the fact that she's like, I think I heard someone describe this as a get out of jail free card, and the more I think about it, the more I think that is just so true. It's the fact that it's like, even if you mess up as Ethan or you mess up as Norman Jaden, it's like, oh, you only have time to phone one of them. Why, I don't know, but it's like, yeah, you can phone them, but Madison's never met Norman, and he never met Scott. She never met Scott Shelby either. Yet somehow when she gets told the name, she's like, oh, Scott Shelby, the Scott Shelby, and you're like, no, you've never met him. Don't pretend. As you said in the playthrough we did, you're like, she just doesn't want to lose face and feel like, I have no idea who that is. Oh, Scott Shelby, of course. Although there is the happy ending, like, for some reason, Ethan and Madison get together, Scott Shelby's dead, Norman's like, he's on talk shows and everything, but he's still got his addiction to the Ari and everything. There's other endings that really do not sit right with me, and I think I sent them to you like after we did the playthrough, where it's like, if you fail, like if you get arrested as Ethan and you don't complete the trials, there's like a scene where he basically hangs himself in his cell surrounded by origami, which, very cheerful stuff. But the worst one by far, and I think I've ranted about this before, so I'll make it brief, but it's basically where if you survive with Madison but Sean dies, then you basically go to his grave and Ethan is absolutely distraught. He's like, oh, I let two of my sons die and everything, and Madison basically comes behind him and goes, I want a baby, give baby, and you're like, what the hell is going on here? Like, see, if you watch it out of context, it is both hilarious and disturbing, because it's literally, she comes behind him, is like, I want a baby with your eyes, and it's like, you're literally saying this as he's standing above his son's grave, and then he shoots himself. He's like, yeah, I need time to think about this, and as soon as our back is turned, he just brings out a gun and shoots himself. Jesus. And I'm like, this is like,
now that's an ending.
No. Yeah, it's like, that's all, folks.
I just had a thought.
Yeah.
Just to briefly cycle back to Madison's character. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I think would have made more sense having a female character? What if it had been the wife? What if it had been Ethan's wife, Sean's mother?
I mean, that would have made more sense.
Because you could have had it from that. Could have been, then you could have had an interesting story about whether like you decide to get the two of them to reconnect, or whether like they just go their separate ways or something like that. And then she could have been a journalist. I don't think we find out what her job is, but you could easily have folded that in, and kept a lot of that stuff. Sorry, that was just something that came to my mind, because again, like, I just have such a problem with the Madison Ethan like relationship, because it's like, oh yeah, Ethan had a wife. Don't worry about her. She's a bit of a bitch. She like tries to turn him into the police and everything. That's the last time we see her. And like, we don't care. And Sean couldn't care less about her. At the end, he's like, yay, new family.
I have a new mum. My new mum has 3 shower heads. And insomnia. It's like, My God, yeah. There's a lot of disconnect. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, on the one hand, it's like, that is true. You know, it's very disconnected in that regard. But on the other hand, I'd suppose it must be quite hard to try and make a game of this scale. You know, to try and, like, link every path up and everything. Don't get me wrong, like, a lot of the plot points don't hit or make sense, even if you do certain actions, but some of the other ones, like, there's a reason why, like, if it's going to work or if it's not, like, for example, the Blackout plot points, you know, things like that, the Madison, the cut content for her, and all the other stuff that could have been in the game, but just wasn't for unfortunate reasons, which is a shame. It is a huge shame, but as they say, it is what it is.
Very true.
But kind of just like closing off on that point, you were saying earlier, like we were talking like off stream about basically like our favourite moments of the game, or our playthrough in particular. Is there any like favourite moment that you'd like to bring up now?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, the Steve McQueen fan fiction will stay with me, I think, for the rest of my life.
Oh, same.
It's the pure joy that brought. I think. Oh god. I think one thing. Yeah, I think one thing happened earlier. It was forgetting to like inspect the dead body at the crime scene. And the more I think about it, the more I find it is hysterical that we spent like ages combing this ground, finding all these different bits, all these clues, speaking to everybody, getting coffee, and we're like, right, we're done. Take the glasses off, we leave. We're trying to. Why can't we get in the car? Why can't we go? And we're like, oh, we haven't looked at the body yet. You have to like scuttle back quickly into the crime scene and be like, oops, sorry.
Hiding your head in shame.
That for me, the more I think about it, the more.
Oh, again, like the Steve McQueen moment is, I think, by far my favourite personally. Like the prompts as well. There's a particular prompt you're supposed to. It's like a half circle you're supposed to do. But for some reason it wasn't really working in my copy of the game. I don't know why. If this is like a common problem with this prompt, but like I'm sure I had problems with that. Not to the same extent, but I'm sure I had problems like in the PlayStation version. I could be wrong, but
oh my goodness!
Like I need to I need to play it again to like confirm like 100%. But oh, that was so grim. It was like just sitting there thinking, why isn't this working? And it led to some funny moments, like when, as we were saying about like Madison's chapter, when you have to make yourself, you know, well, you have to like pull down your blouse and everything and make yourself, you know, oh look at me in the club. And for some reason they gave you that prompt and it worked first time. And I lost my shit at that because I thought, no way. Like, throughout the game, it's like, you know, we had scenes where children were endangered and the prompt didn't work. We had other bits where it's like, okay, that doesn't work. But yeah, for some reason, yeah, pulling down her blouse, fine, apparently. And I thought,
you killed a man rather than having to do that prompt.
That is true, yeah. And Ethan's fourth trial, I saw the prompt and I saw the other prompt, which was easier, and I chose the easier prompt. I have no shame. It's David Cage's fault for that instead, not mine. It's like, you know how you get those moments, or, you know, in films where it's like, if they're locked up and, you know, you see, like, the cell and it's got, like, all the writing on the walls. Like, if I ever lose the plot and, you know, you see me in a cell, it'll be all those prompts just drawn on the walls. David, why do you want me to go in this circle? Why won't it work? I mean, let me put it this way. It got so bad that we've probably got a compilation's worth of footage for it, which is disturbing in itself, but you know what? The memories of it all.
Memories will live on.
I'm just trying to think what other moments. That, as you said, there's genuinely just so many moments. As I said...
Your Madison rap was brilliant.
Oh, yeah. That, and when we had to ask Jesus what to do about... about Blake beating the psychiatrist, and there's a picture of Jesus on the wall. I'm like, Jesus, what should we do? Help us. Oh god, there is. There's just oh yeah, Mr. Anderson, the running joke there.
Mr. Anderson and Merlin.
Yeah, so we had a running joke, just to explain quickly. We had a running joke where Ethan, at the beginning, he's showing us like a happy architect, and you know, he's like drawing the plans, and he says, oh, the plans are coming along nicely. And we basically built up our own lore, didn't we? Where it was like, we were actually making these plans for a Mr. Anderson, and like ever since Ethan went in the coma, you know, he couldn't get the plans. So Mr. Anderson never got his home. Also as well, when we adopted fake Jason, we basically followed a random NPC and just called them Jason to, like, you know, lift the burden of having to find our actual child. But yeah, there were so many moments. It's honestly a great series. Like, I enjoyed it. I'm sure I can say the same for you as well.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't checked it out, please go over to YouTube and check out the Heavy Rain playthrough. It was a blast to do, and even looking back on it, it was hilarious.
Such fun we had.
Oh yes, the laughs, the joys, the boomerangs, and the edits. I will admit, the editing was fun in that one. The editing was a lot of fun to do.
Oh, sorry, I just remembered one. I'll give one more shout out.
Yeah.
When as Norman Jade and you were stuck in that car, and then you were trying to find a way out, but it kept hitting.
That's true. I got tied to the steering wheel of a car and the controls weren't being responsive. So instead of me like being able to turn like right, I just kept beeping the horn and I kept zooming out and going beep, beep.
Closer and closer, these grinding gears. You're like, right, time to get out now.
How about this time? It's like it was not a fun time.
Oh, sorry, that one just came to me there. I couldn't let the episode end without bringing that joy coming out.
Yeah. In fact, no. I'll say one more as well. The one when we went into the third trial where you have to chop off your finger, and then after we chopped off the finger, after you actually telling me to saw it off, so
you didn't do anything you didn't want to do.
No, Adam said, "Let's saw off the finger. What's the worst that could happen?" And I was like, "Oh God!" And you're like, "Yeah, but I didn't say anything." It's like, God damn it, Adam! Why?
Such a troll.
Oh, you really were. But I think the kind of cherry on the cake there was when we were supposed to pick up the like SD card to get the information about where Sean was, and it was that half circle prompt again, and it just stopped working, and I just lost it. I just started screaming into the mic. I'd done that a couple of times. I did it for that, and I did it when we were trying to unlock the door to get in the origami killer's apartment. And it, like, you pressed all these button prompts, and then at the very end, you had to, like, do that prompt, and the prompt didn't work, so it put you back to the beginning. There was a lot of anger. But as I said, like, we aren't doing it justice describing it. Go check it out.
Go watch the playthrough.
Genuinely. Like, it may be a couple hours, but it's a couple hours well spent. I will admit.
You'll enjoy it.
Just get some snacks, binge a couple episodes a day. You'll really enjoy it. I really think you'll enjoy it. Is there anything else you want to say, or?
No, like, I mean, I think trying to sum up Heavy Rain overall, like, I do think it is like a good game. I don't think it's great. Like, and I do think it's a game that, like, it doesn't hold up on multiple playthroughs. I really think it's one that you should play once. If you want to play it, ideally go watch us play it. It's much better. But if you want to play it once, and then probably don't go back to it. I would recommend. It doesn't hold up on multiple repeats. But like, I do think it is a good game, and it's out of like the four main David Cage games. I played two of them. It's my favorite. So we'll see if the other two can knock it off the top spot. But yeah, like, there's problems. There's lots of problems. But like, look, there is, as you said, there's strong foundations at the very least.
As I said, very good ideas, but poor execution for the most part. There's just, I feel as if there could have been tighter writing or certain aspects. Like, in terms of a technical aspect, it is a very impressive game for the time.
Yeah.
Like, there's some bits that are a bit janky, but I remember when this came out and it looking hyper-realistic and everything.
Oh, God,
It really was. For the time, it was fantastic. And it still holds up. Like, the water, or... well, most of it, but the water physics is really well done. Like, the textures when things are wet are really good. Everything else, like the love story, and that's my closing point. Yeah, if you're ever going to be romantically involved with someone in a motel room, use the bed. Don't use don't use the floor.
For the love of God, don't use the floor.
And if you're wondering what the hell I mean by that, just watch our playthrough. Just watch it, please. You'll know what we mean once you get to that episode. You'll be watching it and you'll go, oh, that's what I was talking about. It's like,
Oh, I see.
yeah, but don't just, as I said, like, good ideas, poor execution. But for the most part, it did a good job in certain areas.
Yeah.
Would I say it's like game of the year? Probably not, but it's not far off. Nah, it's very far off. But yeah, I would say, like, I don't know, like, between Heavy Rain and Detroit, I would say they're kind of tied. And I know you've still to play it, but yeah, we'll see what you think, like, after we do
Chelsea.
the other two. Yeah.
A new champion emerges.
Yeah, either between that or
Cage
beyond.
Rumble.
Exactly. The cage. So, yeah. On that note, will we wrap up?
Let's do.
If you want to check out more of our podcast episodes, then you can check us out on Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, and really all good podcast distributors. Just search the name Satsunami, and yeah, you'll definitely find us. Just look for the Red Panda. And as well, if you want to see more of my personal content, you can check me out on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and of course Twitch under the name Satsunami42. If you look at the YouTube channel, that is where our Heavy Rain playthrough is, as well as our shenanigans in GTA, Breath of the Wild, and of course Warzone. So if you want to see Adam sacrificing himself in Verdansk, or you know, our adventures as well with our good friend Green Shield, feel free to check that out. Yeah, how about that, eh?
Oof. What a masterpiece that was. What a masterpiece. Well done.
Yes, why, thank you.
I doff my lettucey cap to you.
Lettucey cap? What happened to your crown?
Times are tough.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you had to sell it to S Banks, the lower master himself.
Let's feed the deli counter.
Yes, of course. And without any further ado, and trying not to sound insensitive with it being Heavy Rain, but stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, stay hydrated, especially in the heavy rain. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.